Will everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for a moment of silence after we finish? I pledge allegiance
The flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's take a moment of reflection and respect for Sandy Mayer, Morristown Council President, Democratic Party leader, a tenacious activist, and friend to so many in our community. She will be deeply missed by all of us. May she rest in peace. Thank you. The next item on the agenda this evening is approval of the minutes. May I have a motion to approve the minutes from January 3rd, 2024, the reorganization meeting, and January 17th, 2024, the closed and regular meeting?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Proclamations. We have one proclamation on this evening's agenda. We'll be honoring April 22nd, 2024 as Earth Day and April 26th, 2024 as Arbor Day. And we're going to have committee member Siva Jonnada read the proclamation. He is the Environmental Commission liaison.
Thank you, Mayor. It's my honor to read the proclamation. Thank you, Mayor. It's an honor to read the proclamation. Whereas Earth Day is celebrated every year on April 22nd, and Arbor Day will be celebrated on April 28th, and whereas both days welcome the recognition and celebration of our planet and its natural resources, and whereas the Earth Day theme this year is Planet versus Plastic, advocating for widespread awareness of the health risks that come with the use of plastics, with the goal of reducing plastic production 60% by 2040. And whereas Earth Day is an annual reminder of the constant need for environmental activism, stewardship, commitments, and sustainability efforts. And whereas the first Arbor Day occurred on April 10th, 1872, which was established as a special day for the planting of trees. And whereas trees can be a solution to combating climate change by reducing the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cutting heating and cooling costs, moderating the temperature, cleaning the air, producing life-giving oxygen, and providing habitat for wildlife. And whereas all beings have a right to a healthy, thriving, and sustainable environment, and whereas Earth Day and Arbor Day are both celebrated around the world to inspire everyone to take care of our planet and protect the earth for future generations. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Morris Township Committee supports and commemorates both Earth Day and Arbor Day and encourages the residents of Morris Township to join them in the preservation and appreciation of our environment. Thank you.
Thank you, Committeeman Jonnada. There are currently 5 members of the public joining us on Zoom. At this time, we will open the meeting to the public comment. We will take comments from in-person attendees first and then switch over to Zoom. Please virtually raise your hand in Zoom to indicate you would like to speak. Please state your name and address for the record before speaking. Please note that comments are limited to 5 minutes per speaker. If you have questions you would like answered, the remaining time to speak will be yielded back for this purpose. Is there a motion to open public comment?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good evening, Diane Holland, 26 North Ridge Place. I can also make an inquiry at this point, right? It says public commentary inquiry, right? Skipping ahead, the ordinance 07-24 regarding the execution of shared services for the sewer pump. Could we get an update on that?
Sure, yes.
That involves the litigation that involved the Township of Morris, the Sisters of Township of Morris, Sisters of Charity, and the Borough of Florham Park. The settlement of the litigation requires the Borough of Florham Park to manage that pump station, and that's the shared services agreement that's part of that that we've worked out with them. We take the effluent as part of that. We've always taken the effluent from that pump station. Has been operated by the Sisters of Charity, but rightfully so, the Sisters of Charity will no longer be in the sewer business, and it'll be done by the municipality. So that was, you may have seen a resolution back in May for the settlement agreement for all the parties, and now this follows up as to how that pump station is going to be operated and what the requirements are of Morris Township and Florham Park.
Does that set in motion the potential to develop the property around there?
It's all part of that litigation. They have, Florham Park already has affordable housing project on that site, and that's part of the litigation settlement. So that affordable housing project will be giving effluent to that pump station. That was the driving force as to why that pump station had to be built in order to accommodate that housing project
On the lower portion.
on the Park Avenue and Florham Parks.
Has nothing to do with the park.
No, ma'am, that the effluent from that project, if and when built, would come up a main up Punch Bowl Road and would not be part of that pump station.
As far as you know, the upper part is stagnant at the moment.
We're waiting out for the sisters if they're going to identify a developer who's going to develop that property as part of our declaratory judgment litigation to be built. And it's really, we're not driving the bus on this one. It's the sisters that are, and when they decide to select a developer, and then they would have to come back before the township for the approvals. You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Sullivan. Is there anybody else from the public?
Hello, I'm John Beal. I live at 55 Bailey Hollow Road, Morristown. Sorry, this is my first time addressing the committee, so thank you for your time. Bailey Hollow is a terrible road. We live on this road, my neighbors, we've all been talking about it. High rates of speed, it's a continuous pothole from the top to the bottom. You know, there's endless construction traffic coming through between 24 and 202. And I believe that those vehicles are the cause of the roadway being in the shape that it's in. For instance, a pickup truck weighs between 2 and 3 tons, fine. A mason dump is around 7 tons. A full mason dump is 10 tons plus. An empty tandem is 14 tons. A loaded tandem is 35 tons. Never mind all the trailers that are dragging all the equipment behind. We have a 5-ton limit on our road. So the road is destroyed and has nothing to do with Department of Public Works. They go out and they patch, they do a good job. But I think law enforcement is doing a good job at stopping some of the speeding. But I think that the road is into the condition right now that someone's really going to get hurt. So I have a solution, perhaps. Monitoring speed, obviously, is a good way to go about it. We should probably make or consider making the whole road 25 miles an hour. Instead of it being, I think it's 35 at the top end near Western, and it goes down to 20 on the curves and 25 at the bottom. Why don't we just consider making the whole thing 25? Maybe writing on the roads 25, like up at Skyland. They did a good job up there with that. I think that the speed signs did something good, slowed people down a little bit. You should try getting your mail out of the mailbox when somebody's 2 feet away from you at 40 miles an hour. It's pretty tough. I also feel that we could probably start enforcing and maybe better signage for the 5-ton limit. There's a sign about 16 by 20 at the bottom, 16 by 20 at the top. The one at the bottom is covered by trees. And anything over a dump truck is overweight. So I think it would be pretty easy to figure out who's overweight on the road. But, I'm kind of worried because we come out of our driveways, Bailey Hollow, if you know the road, every driveway has sightline issues. And you have to creep out onto the road to actually see if there's a car coming. And when it's coming at you at 40 miles an hour on a curve, you're just hoping that nothing's going to happen. And I'm really kind of concerned that some of these tandems that come down the road are simply not going to be able to stop. So, I could imagine what's, something that's 7 times the legal tonnage would do at the bottom of the road, or a school bus, or, a pedestrian. There's bicyclists that go up that road, all kinds of stuff like that. So I would hope that the committee would take this up and really consider, a new road projects there. Maybe it should be to a higher DOT spec. My suspicion is that the road was a wagon road at one point, and eventually it was paved over. There's also considerable drainage problems there too. So do you know if there's anything on the docket for that?
Well, first of all, we appreciate your comments, and I think most of us are familiar with the road, but I think Jim, you could tell us the latest, when's the last time they did it.
Give you the good news.
Oh, like that.
On tonight's agenda are a number of ordinances for our general capital projects. The first one coming up deals with road overlays. Bailey Hollow is at the top of the list. So Bailey Hollow is going to get a complete milling and overlay. That will probably take place around August, is usually when they do the work. But the Township Committee is introducing an ordinance this evening for that funding. And then that will be under their consideration on May 15th. And if that's adopted, then we have a 20-day estoppel period to wait. So the money would be available in June. We usually work with our contractors that are on state co-op, so we have a set price for that. They do about 10 roads a year for us, depending on the funding, the length of the road, the width of the road, that kind of thing. But Bailey Hollow is on the top of the list. So the roadway is going to be completely repaved this summer.
Beautiful.
As to the overweight vehicles and everything else, I will certainly talk to the police department finance staff for additional enforcement there. I do travel that road quite a bit, so I know where you are. And going back to your speed limit, the Township Committee can't arbitrarily set a speed limit. There's a formula. It's called the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices, and it's a formula that has to go in with speed counts and volume counts, and that establishes the speed limit. So I'm sure we will be doing those counts once the road is repaved to see if that speed limit should be changed or not. The top level is flat, but then you get into the curves, and that also goes into the factor as to, the residential suburban is the 35, but you can lower that to the 25 for certain things like strong curves, steepness of the slopes, those kinds of things.
If they can consider the drainage as well, there's large drainage problems near the bottom of the hill.
Okay.
Some drains don't even drain. And the poor people out on Mount Kemble must get destroyed by the amount of water that comes down that road.
Are you referring to the storm basins that are on the roadway?
Yeah.
And the water's
taking
not going
water.
in, or that
Just
they're
a
overflowing?
giant puddle. So
Okay.
it's clogged.
Okay. It's clogged?
Yeah.
Okay. I will give that also to our Department of Public Works to take a look at.
Well, thank you for your time.
You're welcome, sir. Anything else?
Yeah, no.
Hello, my name's Mary Haroon, 13 Pine Tree Lane. And my neighbor Rosemary Mono is 15 Pine Tree Lane. You might know her. I'm here to talk to you about rats. We have a rat problem on Pine Tree Lane. In November, I discovered that I had rats in my house. I had to move out because I had an infestation. I reported it to the health department. I've gone through 2 exterminators. I had to live outside my home for 3 months. I still have a rat problem. It's coming from the school and from the restaurants down the street. I understand that the state of New Jersey does not require extermination for restaurants and grocery stores. So I also spoke to Liz in the health department. They've informed the school to get covers for their garbage cans in the summer programs. My neighbors also, there's a number of them that have had problems with rodents due to the school and due to the market at the bottom of the street. So I'm just curious as to why the school does not have proper extermination, why there is a dumpster behind I guess, one of the baseball fields, there's a fence that divides us and there's a dumpster right there by the houses. Why is that there? And why do they not have lids for the garbage cans in the summer for their programs? And why is it that the Township of Morris does not have an ordinance that states that every restaurant and bodega have extermination?
Well, I think that, to be honest, I know the health department does have to go into businesses and restaurants.
But there's no fine, there's no ordinance, so they're just like, sure, great.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they,
feel
they,
inspection.
right, they would have to, they get inspected, there's any violations, they get notice of the violation, they don't get a satisfactory approval.
You can go behind the Jeans Market, it's a mess.
He's got garbage cans there with no
Well,
lids on
lids.
them.
Actually, behind the jeans.
Yeah.
We already have a concern on that. In fact,
As you pull into Jeans, there's a garbage can
Yeah.
right there with no lid on it. And then you go
Right.
around behind the back, there's a dumpster and two other, we took pictures.
But the
just yesterday.
school also
But-
is an issue.
but the issue with jeans, with
Mhm.
that, we did get a complaint on that. My property maintenance officer was going up there today to address that. I think it's the new owners up there, I was told.
That's the nail salon,
But then next to, is it still the same owners?
still the same owners.
Okay. They-
To
so
my
they had-
knowledge, you
right.
might have new knowledge.
No, they
that
just,
I'm-
we had recently received a concern for the back of the property, being unkempt and garbage and things like that. So my
But
property
the
maintenance was
the
also
school-
up there today.
Is also, the rats,
Yeah.
I found another dead one underneath my, window there
Okay.
because I have bait boxes. I walk around because I'm now looking at everyone's bait boxes. So I should, I could be your
Okay.
like deputy in health department, but,
Yeah.
the school's a problem. I don't want a dumpster on the other side
Okay.
of my property. And I would like them to, listen to the health department, get lids for your garbage cans.
It's good timing. I'm going to say good timing, meaning that Ms. Zalmi and our public health nurse and myself have a meeting with the superintendent on Friday.
Mhm.
So we'll add that to the agenda.
Thank you.
There, we were told that the DPW,
Yes.
the DPW said that it was the school's problem to pick up the garbage during the summertime programs, and the school said it was the DPW's problem. This came from the health, right? Your health lady inspector told us that they were fighting back and forth, figuring who's going to pick the garbage up. So guess what? Don't put anything there, because you know what it's like to have a picnic on a Sunday, on a Saturday, when you have your family over and they see a rat coming across your lawn. It's not nice. And don't laugh, because it's not funny. They come across. They come from Vale School, they come from down the street, and when you see a rat in your yard, okay? Mr. Simone next door to me killed 14 last year in his yard. Okay, 14 rats. It's not funny anymore, and we're tired of it. I had to pay for an exterminator last year. She paid an exterminator this year. The woman across the street just paid an exterminator. Her husband works for the Parks Commissions, okay, for the state. I mean, enough is enough. Like, we've had enough. We had rats come over because the person who owns the lot next to A&B Bagel had grass this high.
Still high.
And then finally, we got summons to cut it in, I think in November or October, because A&B Bagel was complaining about all the mice and the critters that he was seeing in there. So they made, I think, if I remember correctly, Mr. Pete Scaramucci owns that property and was told to come there and clean it out.
It's not clean.
I mean, we don't have to live like this. We pay taxes. We do not have to live like this and have rats in our yard when we have people over and little kids. I mean, wait till a little kid in the daytime gets bit by a rat out there. You're going to have a big problem, because they are out there all the time, these animals. And it's not just at night, and it's not early morning. You can go out at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and see a rat.
We certainly.
And we don't like it anymore. We're done with it.
Yeah.
The neighborhood the street is done with it.
Rats.
We would like something done.
Problem to this extent, so certainly when Tim has
That's
the
it.
meeting,
Thank you.
we'll do what we can to take care of the problem. Is there anybody else from the public? Oh, yeah, no, I see that. Mr. O'Reilly? Welcome.
There's no way.
We can hear you.
There. Yeah, there's no way for me to unmute. Like I said, you have to put that sign on my.
You're breaking up, Jim.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Your
Okay,
name and address.
James O'Reilly, 50 Independence Way. This is considerably less serious than the people who came before me just now with the rat problem. But was there a reason that we're just getting around, and I understand there may be good reason, to approving the minutes of the January meeting? And what was the other meeting which we just approved? Was that the last meeting or was it before the last meeting? Did you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear me, Jim?
Yeah, I hear you.
It was the reorganization meeting, which is early in January on the 3rd. And then it was the Township Committee meeting on January 17th. And just unfortunately, sometimes at that time of year, it's really busy. And I think that the clerk does her best to get the minutes as quickly as possible. And we are always trying to do better, and we'll continue to do that. But right now, I think the minutes are at a 2-month.
Yeah, and it's up online, I mean, the videos there.
Right, but we will try to get them posted quicker and.
Okay, I understand. It's a lot of work. You're aware that the sound system, my picture of the video elements going on and off. Now you're on, now I see you. Before I just saw my name, as Eagle Building as that is. And you're also aware that your sound system, sometimes I can hear the mayor, sometimes I can't, or maybe other members of the committee. Sometimes the podium mic seems weak, sometimes it's okay. And Mr. Quinn's mic is always good. And I hear a little something going, slight sound is on the audio, a pinging sound. I just want you to aware that from a point of view of someone watching via Zoom, all these things are going on.
And we apologize for that. We're doing our best to try to.
I just wanted to make you aware of it. Okay, thank you. You can turn me up. You can mute me now.
Seeing no other hand, oh no, we do have one more. Vicky? Could you state your name and address?
Yes, hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, it's Vicky Bargut, 11 Mark Twain Drive. Thanks for hearing me this evening. Just wanted to see if we can resurrect conversations about the gas-powered leaf blowers. I went ahead and investigated a couple local towns because they've recently banned leaf blowers. So if you all look at Maplewood, there's an ordinance 3057-2. And Mount Clair has a new ordinance that took effect October 16, 2023, banning gas-powered leaf blowers. And as you all are aware, we're right next to Morristown. Morristown has a new ordinance 033-202. Also, that got support from the community of over 100 votes that are banning gas-powered leaf blowers. So with that, considering our surrounding area is really taking this as concern, I wanted to see if this is a discussion that we can have in the township. I don't think that we need to be as aggressive as the other towns in which there's a complete ban, but maybe something that can last anywhere from May to September. So there could be a compromise for spring and fall cleanup. The reason for the ban would be from an environmental perspective, especially, really, the gas, really that pollution. but also from a noise perspective. Many people, even after COVID, are working from home. It's very disruptive, and there's really no quiet in the neighborhoods. So on Mark Twain, any day you come through this street, you will get noise from 8 to 5, particularly in the summer, and it's really quite disruptive. So just really wanted to bring this up. I know I brought it up a couple years ago and wanted to see if this is a conversation that we can, look into and see if there's something that we can do about it. That's all I had to say.
Thank you for bringing it up. It certainly is a concern, and I don't know, has it on the Environmental Commission, this has been brought up? Siva, I don't know if recently, but I know in the past it was at least discussed.
It was discussed, but nothing came forward, at least for now. And I think it's in the docket, but there's other issues that we're also discussing that are related to it.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, we appreciate your comments. We know it's a concern. We know, especially in the summer months, how disruptive it is. And I know that's why in many other municipalities, they have put in certain rules, which I think are in place though, right? They can't start before a certain time, and
We also have that on the contract.
just the time, just not about gas.
And no contract is on Sunday.
In the summer, they go anywhere from 8 to 8. There needs to be something that's done. Maybe there's a time restriction, like we can't have 9 to 5 or even a month, at least a month or two of quiet in the summer would really be appreciated.
Again, we appreciate your concerns and we'll bring them to the discussion and then we'll see where we go from there. It's a little complicated in those summer months for the areas where people feel that they, it's their property and if they want to hire landscapers. But certainly we agree that environmentally too, especially the gas powered leaf blowers, we'd like to help try to resolve how we get to a better understanding of using better equipment. So thank you.
I think we should look at the local community, especially Morristown, Mount Clair, and Maplewood, making those decisions because they're all banning it. And they're being very aggressive in the banning. So there's an opportunity in which we can have a compromise. So thank you for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. I don't see any other hands on Zoom. So is there a motion to close the public comment?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We have 3 ordinances for public hearing and adoption on tonight's agenda. Madam Clerk, please read the title of the first ordinance into the record and we'll then open the public hearing.
Ordinance 0524, an ordinance to exceed the municipal budget for wage limits and to establish the tax rate for the calendar year 2024. NJSA 40A 4-45.4. Requirement for municipal budget.
We will take comments from in-person attendees first and then switch over to Zoom. Please virtually raise your hand in Zoom to indicate if you want to speak. I have a motion to open the public hearing on ordinance number 05-24.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Seeing no one from the public or any hands raised of people wishing to speak, will someone make a motion to close the public comment?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
May I have a motion to adopt ordinance number 05-24?
Second.
Is there any discussion or any questions? Madam Clerk, may I have a roll call vote?
Mr. Gyorfy?
Yes.
Mr. Grayzel?
Yes.
Mr. Jonnada?
Yes.
Mr. Ravitz?
Yes.
Mayor Guariglia?
Yes. I, Donna J, Guariglia, Mayor, declare ordinance number 05-24 approved and adopted and direct the Township Clerk to publish proper notice thereof in the official newspaper. Madam Clerk, please read the title of the second ordinance into the record, and then I will ask Mr. Quinn to give us some background on ordinance 06-24. 24, and why it should be rescinded as written and reintroduced tonight as ordinance 08-24.
Ordinance 06-24, an ordinance of the Township Committee of the Township of Morris, amending Chapter 15 of the Township Code. Note, amendment to personnel policies.
Turn this one off.
We just did.
That better? Can I have a motion to rescind ordinance 06-24?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I think you need
Yeah,
a roll
we're going to need a roll call.
Oh.
Do you want me to do the explanation for that?
Yes, do the explanation now.
Mayor, we are requesting that 0624 be rescinded. There had been a last-minute change to the ordinance before it was introduced last night by the governing body. Upon further review, it basically commingled a sick leave benefit for what is for full-time employees and what is statutory for part-time employees. Caused some confusion. So looking at that, we thought it best to separate out what the sick time leave benefit is for full-time employees considered for carryover and what the sick time leave benefit is for part-time employees by state statute. It's a material change, so we're asking that the ordinance be rescinded tonight. The corrections to that ordinance have been made and would recommend that 0824 be then introduced later on this evening for this ordinance.
Any questions from anyone? So do we need a new motion?
No, it's a roll call.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Grayzel,
Yes.
Mr. Gyorfy,
Yes.
Mr. Jonnada,
Yes.
Mr. Ravitz,
Yes.
and Mayor Guariglia.
Yes. I, Donna J. Guariglia, Mayor, declare ordinance number 06-24 rescinded. Madam Clerk, please read the title of the last ordinance for public hearing and adoption into the record, and then we will open the public hearing.
Ordinance 07-24, an ordinance of the Township of Morris authorizing the execution of a shared service agreement with the Borough of Florham Park concerning the operations of a sewer pump station and governing the treatment of sewage flows. Note, Sisters of Charity of St. Elizabeth.
We will take comments from in-person attendees first and then switch over to Zoom. Please virtually raise your hand in Zoom to indicate if you would like to speak. May I have a motion to open the public hearing on ordinance number 07-24?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Seeing no one from the public or hands raised on Zoom, will someone make a motion to close the public comment?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
May I have a motion to adopt ordinance number 07-24?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion or questions? Madam Clerk, may I have a roll call vote?
Mr. Grayzel,
Yes.
Mr. Gyorfy,
Yes.
Mr. Jonnada,
Yes.
Mr. Ravitz.
Yes.
Mayor Guariglia.
Yes. I, Donna J. Guariglia, Mayor, declare ordinance number 07-24 approved and adopted, and direct the Township Clerk to publish proper notice thereof in the official newspaper. At this time, we will now move into the 2024 municipal budget presentation, which will be provided by our Township Administrator, Tim Quinn, CFO, Sean Ferguson, and our Township Auditor, Valerie Dolan.
Mayor Guariglia and members of the Township Committee, I am pleased to present the 2024 budget for public hearing and consideration for adoption. As we go into it, it's a very long process. As you know, you've all been involved in the process. A special thank you to our department heads for all the work that they put in assisting us in developing the budget. Appreciate all the help then from the standing committees as we reviewed each of the budgets with the department heads, and then the finance committee of Mayor Guariglia and Committeeman Gyorfy, Mr. Ferguson, myself, working together to bring everything together that we present to you tonight. Also, many thanks to Mr. Ferguson for his input on it, and also many thanks for Ms. Valerie Dolan, for our auditor from Nisavacia, who's always there for us whenever we have a question or an answer or need a response or some guidance on how to move forward, not only through the year. The way I like to do the budget is usually I will ask Ms. Dolan to lead off and give us an overview on that. I will then do the budget presentation, and I will ask Mr. Ferguson then to back clean up and bring it to a close. So with that, I will turn it over to Ms. Dolan.
Thank you very much. I do want to make a couple of comments. I want to commend the efforts this year that was done by all the parties involved putting together this budget. It's a sound budget, well-balanced and thoughtful to the residents of Morris Township. While dealing with many inflationary increases, Morris Township's also desire to not eliminate any services to the residents. So you all should be commended for a fiscally sound budget. This budget has been reviewed and signed off by our firm and our review of all the statutory budgetary guidelines. Fortunately for you this year, you were not a state review. We were able to get that eliminated for you this year. You will go back into the normal 3-year rotation on state review. You had been in annual review due to the COVID emergencies, but having them being paid off, you are no longer under that state scrutiny. You will just be in the normal review process. This budget is well within the statutory appropriation cap and the tax levy cap as required by the state of New Jersey. And there is nothing in this budget that I feel is any way would place an unnecessary burden on future budgets of the township.
Thank you, Ms. Dolan. As we go, next slide, please. We always find many challenges as we go into the budget year, and most of those challenges deal with expenses that we have very little control over. Those are some of the statutory expenses, but then also expenses that deal with healthcare and insurance. And then, unfortunately, you've seen the cost of goods and services have gone up dramatically. CPI has been up at times between 6 and 7%, and we're trying to manage everything with not going any higher than 2%. So it's sometimes a balancing act in what you have, what you can afford, and then what offsets that we can do. Budget, the biggest expense for the township, we have a very good workforce, a very lean workforce compared to other municipalities for what we do and get done. But employee salaries are a significant part of the budget, and our employees getting raises. The Township Committee has always been very favorable in providing adequate income and salaries to our employees. The other challenge that we have is providing benefits for our employees, and health benefits especially. As you may recall, last year we are part of the state health benefits plan that went up 21%. It was a huge number last year that we're dealing with. We're doing a little bit better this year. It's not great. It's because it was 5% on the medical, 9% on the prescription, overall about 7%. But if you look at the actuaries that are coming in for 2025, they're not pretty. So we may be back, looking unless something does, and we'll hopefully that, as the governor gave a nice holiday to the state employees, we'd like to see that also for municipal employees, because it also helps out, the municipalities. But we'll deal with that as we go on. But the bright spot, if there is, on statutory expenses was pension costs. In the past several years, they've been in double digits, 10, 11%. This year, our public employees pension came in at 5%, and we actually got a very minor reduction, $5,000 on a $2.2 million bill, but it's 0% increase. So we didn't have to budget any extra money for pension. So we're very fortunate on that. The other challenges that we have, and I've spoken about this in past years, are the tipping and recycling fees. The tipping fees have gone up about 5% this year, but we know what our tonnage is. We know what they're going to be. That's fairly easy to project. The one we have difficulty is the recycling. We have a ceiling as to what it's going to be, but there's a lot of fluctuation in that. And we can see some months that'd be significantly high and then other months be very low. It all depends on the market. We have added an extra $50,000 into the budget to deal with the increases in tipping fees and in the recycling. And we'll take a look at that as we go on through the year. And we continue to monitor that from month to month. The other challenges, and you also see this at home, is the cost of gasoline. It's gone up, it's come down. We use a lot of diesel fuel, so the diesel fuel is still up in the $4 plus a gallon, and that's running all of our heavy duty equipment out of the Department of Public Works. So it's a big number. We put extra money into the 2023 budget for it, and then we came in with that number, and we're going to keep that number here for 2024. The other challenge that we have this year is bond anticipation notes. The last time we went out to bond was 2019. So it becomes a cash flow as we approve new projects that haven't been funded through a bond ordinance yet. So every year we go out from this point on for these bond anticipation notes in the fall. Going back to when we did them in 16 and 17 and 18, we were seeing rates of less than 1%. We came in just below 4% back in September, and everybody else around me is cheering, and I'm going, it's gonna kill my budget. But we actually did very well because of our AAA bond rating. We actually did offering statements. We went, like we would normally do a whole bond sale to try and get those better interest rates because we knew they were going to come in high. We're certainly hopeful that come September, we maybe do better.
Maybe.
We'll cross our fingers. But again, we have to continue doing bond anticipation notes for the foreseeable future until we determine it is now the appropriate time to go out to bond. And certainly that's a timing thing because you want to certainly get the lowest interest rates possible when you do that bond. So ongoing project that with the help of Mr. Ferguson and Ms. Dolan that we're looking at it on a regular basis for that. The other major challenge is the swim pool. It's a great amenity we have for our residents here. But it cannot be sustained on user fees. We have significant debt service from when we did the pool renovations back in 2014 and 15. We got a 10-year bond on that of, about $4 million. So we have a bond payment of $425,000 year 7. And then we also have the bond anticipation note of another $52,000. So overall, with the increase in salaries, the increase in chemicals and everything else, we have to subsidize the pool for this year for $740,000 out of the municipal budget. Most likely we won't use that $740,000, but because user fees will come in higher because we did raise the rates, the Township Committee raised the rates, and we'll look at that and monitor that, but it's still a pretty significant nut that we have to do to provide that amenity for the swim pools. Okay. Just the budget process, what we do is, it's for a year-round process for Mr. Ferguson and myself, and looking at it every month where we're going, but really getting into the nitty-gritty of it begins with our department heads in October. I think they dread that department head meeting because they get their homework, and they have everything back to me with their recommendations for their operating budgets by mid-November, and then their capital budget request by the end of November. And then Mr. Ferguson starts working on the salary projections for our employees. And then we follow up with the standing committees going into December and January. And then in January comes the finance committee, and we try and bring this $42 million into a nice, neat package that we have for you tonight. And we get it introduced in March, and then we come here before you for the public hearing and vote on adoption of the budget tonight. One of the things that's in our budget is called state aid. It's really a misnomer. It's really energy tax receipts. Back in 2001, 23 years ago, we were getting $4.5 million. Back in 2007, we were up to $4.8 million. Took a little bit of a hit in 2009 and a huge hit in 2010, and it dropped down to 3.279. And we stayed at that number through 2022. There's a lot of fanfare about how we were going to get more money, and In 2023, we got an additional 22,000, and this year we got an additional 16,000. Little challenging because if we had gotten our fair share of what we're supposed to be getting, we'd have another $23.4 million that we deserve. We did get a benefit from another source from the state called municipal relief funds. It came in 2023 in the amount of $342,000. So we are taking that as a revenue source for 2024 as per the instructions from the state of New Jersey.
And that is going away in the future. So you will have the 342,000 that will no longer be there.
So it's
So
a
they
one-time.
It was a one-time bump.
So we have a challenge for the 2025
That's a
budget
challenge
already.
for 2025.
All right. Just wanted to show you the historical chart of the pensions. As you can see, it's a major part there. There's been significant increases over the years. And you can see as the graph shows those increases and how they have impacted budgets since 2018. But again, we're fortunate this year that it is not the budget pensioning costs are not an impact on this year's budget. We have an increase of $54,711 and then minus the 4648, so $53,000 overall for the budget. So we've talked a little bit about the recycling. Be the next one up. Sorry, thank you. The recycling tipping fees, that just giving you a historical look at it as to where we are and the fluctuation that has gone up and down over the last several years. Again, we wanted to put some additional funding into the budget this year, and we did increase it by $50,000. Okay. Cost of state mandates, we're always looking. These are a lot of the expenses that we're obligated to pay, but we don't have really a lot of influence onto what those costs are going to be. As we talked a little bit, the significant cost in state health care, it is better than it has been. Certainly like to get it down in that 2 to 3% range, but that does not look very promising for the foreseeable future. Although it's one of our biggest expenses, I think it's also important to note that our employees do contribute. Overall, they contribute 29% of the premiums, which is over $1.5 million. So it is a cost share between us and our employees based on what's called Chapter 78, which is the legislation from 2011 that mandated employees to contribute a certain percentage of their salaries towards their health care benefits. And then our statutory expenses, which is the pension, the health care, Social Security, is $8 million for us. And we also look at municipal debt, and the Township Committee has always followed a philosophy. We're only going to bring on debt as to what we retire, and that's about $2.8 million. We do make exceptions for that when there are certainly major projects. We made an exception last year on 2 occasions. One was for the significant renovations we're doing over at Collinsville Park for about $600,000, and then we had the opportunity to buy 4 Old Turnpike Road, so we put in another $600,000 that we could use for that purchase. And again, this year we are retiring $2.8 million. We're bringing on $2.8 million of new projects, but we are adding in an extra $650,000, and that is for the purchase of 15 Jean Street, which is a long coveted project, a piece of property that we have wanted so that we can, so then start looking to make that into a community center. So the decision was made to increase some additional debt based on that extraordinary circumstances of that opportunity to bring on that building for use by the township in the future. Again, we have the bans that get factored in. We only have bans for the current fund and for the swim pool fund. The sewer and the parking utilities, both we pay as we go 100% through a capital improvement program. We have not had any new debt in over 9 years. And I'm also pleased to say that we have a $35,000 debt payment in the parking utility. And after this year, the parking utility will be quote unquote debt free. And we have a good surplus there. So any projects that need to be done for that parking utility, we certainly have the funding in place to do that and the improvements that in the foreseeable future. Again, the swim pool is the big one. It's a $4 million renovation, as I spoke earlier. And we are on year 7 of that payout. We've got 3 more major payouts for that debt, but we'll have some additional debt coming on because the pools are now getting a little bit older and they need a little TLC to keep them up and running into our standards that are expected by our residents to make sure that they are safe and good properties. The other variables we look at coming into the contract that impacted is we have 4 unions within the township, 2 in the police department, 1 in the fire department, and 1 that covers our Teamsters, which is our public works, our sewer utility, and our parks. All of those contracts have been settled, and they're all settled through December of 2025. So we had some good numbers going into this year for budgeting purposes, and we will also in 2025 for those. The other variable in there is the library costs. That's based on equalized value. That's an assessment that's paid based on state statute. It's going up considerably because our equalized ratio dropped, which is a good thing for our residents, but it also increases the library tax. But it's on both sides of the ledger, so it has no direct impact on the tax rate. But it is going up about $160,000. Again, the state aid is, what it is, and I said we were certainly hoping to get a little bit more than $16,000. Maybe we will next year and help offset that $324,000. Who knows? Also, we had a $7 million increase in our rateable base, so it brought in some additional revenue that then we can factor into the tax base. Township's always looking at grant opportunities and what we can do. Currently, we have a number of grants that are already in the budget. The National Opioid Settlement, money will be coming in. We've worked out an agreement with the County of Morris, so the County of Morris can spread those all over the services and will manage that grant for us. Then we have our Municipal Alliance, which helps with drug and alcohol abuse for primarily our youth and our teenagers, but also for our seniors as part of that. And then we also have a new grant that's also through the Municipal Alliance. We had it one time before. It's called the DHA, and that deals with mental health services for our juveniles. So we have resources for that we can fund for that grant project. And then we get annually the bulletproof vest from both state and federal sources. And that funding that we come in, we then turn that around and we appropriate that towards the bulletproof vest for our police officers. Those bulletproof vests, are well over $1,000, and they have an expected life expectancy of about 5 years. So it's a constant that we are turning over every year, buying bulletproof vests as those vests are taken out of service if they reach their life expectancy.
Tim, real quick, can you touch on grants that we may receive that we don't have here, such as from state DOT, or is that next?
It's coming right up, sir.
One step ahead.
Nope, it is. It's coming up. We do have a number of grants that have already come in since the budget was introduced. It's called a Chapter 59 amendment to the budget. Chapter 159. We did the dry run this morning, and I had to put that. So this Chapter 159 is, you've seen it, is resolutions that will appropriate the grant, but it will technically amend the budget for this, and then it gets filed down with DCA. So what we're looking at, we get a grant every year from Clean Communities. That's about $50,000. That's usually in by now. It hasn't come in yet that I'm aware of, but it should be coming in fairly soon. We get the recycling tonnage grant. That's based on what we do in recycling. Unfortunately, that's down a little bit from past years, but it's $36,000. And then we turn around and we use that for our costs for recycling and doing different things. It also helps pay for like the yearly municipal calendar that goes out, because we put all the recycling information on that as for that. We do have we applied to New Jersey DCA for firefighters equipment grant. We've got a tentative approval of $35,000 for turnout gear for our firefighters. So it's about 10 sets of firefighter gear. We're waiting for the formal approval from the state on that, and when we can appropriate and purchase that turnout gear, but it should be in the very near future. And once we get that in, we'll again do a Chapter 159 to appropriate that funding into the budget. Other grants that we get on a regular basis is the alcohol education, rehab, and enforcement, and that really comes in. It's about $3,500, and it goes to assist the municipal court in the prosecution of DWIs. Oftentimes we need special court sessions. They become fairly involved, so it gives us the extra funding for our professionals and our overtime for our police to prosecute those cases. The other one we get in, it should be also coming in fairly soon. The County of Morris gives a municipal line supplemental grant. We share that with Morristown. Each municipality gets 2,000. We manage it. There is a 50% cost share, so we'll be getting, $4,000. We'll have to match that with the 2,000, and we use it for a lot of team programs. We use it for project graduation, those kinds of things as part of that. So that'll be additional coming in, and then we expect additional funds coming in from the National Opioid Settlement. And then we're always constantly looking at grants when they come in, what is viable. We have a couple right now we're looking at and should be, being submitted and hopeful for approval. We're still waiting on some that have already been submitted that we're waiting on, and hopefully we're going to get approval on it. One is a big one for Sustainable Jersey to do a environmental resource inventory. It's for $20,000, and we're hopeful that we'll get that this year. So as we go through and always looking at costs, one of the things that we look is at our very high level of services that we provide to our residents. That's always been one of the most important things for the governing body, is to provide these services to our community. We have excellent services with our emergency responses, with our police, our fire, our EMS, our OEM. We have terrific health services that we provide. We got a large grant last year to improve our infrastructure. And as you know, we have that ongoing infrastructure going on now where we're renovating the offices. But most importantly, as part of that is we're taking an office and making that into a clinic for the public health nurse, so they can do examinations where need be, get vaccinations, have private conferences and that kind of thing. That project is just about done. We should be moving in probably in the next month or so for that. But again, a number of other health services we provide, along with a lot of programs. They've been very active with our senior community, and then we're doing a lot of programs every Friday or a couple Fridays a month for our seniors, with giving them health education on different aspects to improve their lifestyles. The other things we look at is, waste disposal, recycling, road maintenance, and those we do for our residents. And then going on to recreation, we have the premier recreation program and services that we offer to all of our residents. And being the community we are, where we share a school district and others, and we are very combined with the surrounding municipalities, all of those programs are open to non-residents also. And then we have our professional services, and those are our professionals here at Town Hall that run the different departments that make sure that we're giving exemplary services to all of our residents. We're very fortunate with the caliber of department heads that we have that provide these services and make sure their oversight with their employees and everything else, that we're doing everything we can when we have a concern or something or a request that comes in from a resident. Looking at shared services, the biggest one we have is going back to 2013, as we joined the joint court with Madison, Chatham Township, and Chatham Borough. We have saved a significant amount of money, but more importantly, it's a very efficient court in running that together. So it's been a win-win all the way around by having the court down in Madison, and our costs of what we would be paying for employees and everything else is significantly reduced, where we're just paying what our fair share is. We're the big dog of the court. It's based on the number of cases. So we do pay a good portion of that court budget, but it's very well managed, and we're always getting rebate at the end of the year. The other shared services we have is with our neighboring towns and deals with sewer. Some towns we're accepting their effluent, such as Marsh Lines, where we take all their effluent, or we're taking in a little bit of their effluent, like Randolph or some of the other towns. And then there's some towns that we're giving effluent. It's based on gravity and pump stations and things like that. So we have all of those agreements and trying to be efficient there because it is a large cost for the sewer utility. The other one we have is the joint public library. It's between us, Morristown, and Morris Township. Again, we pay about 2/3 of the cost of the budget, but it's a formula based on equalized value that's mandated by the state. So our contribution is calculated by that equalized ratio of where we are. And then public safety, we have with the County of Morris for communications for our police, fire, and OEM. We haven't seen an increase from the county on that in over 8 years. It's a service that they provide, and they have not raised the rates, even though their rates have gone up considerably to do that. But they're trying to get as many municipalities on as they can, and it's been a win-win situation for us for that. Some of the key offsets that we have coming into this year budget is We do have the Lennar and the Marketplace projects. So we're seeing an additional $289,000 coming in this year in anticipated revenue. Kudos to our finance department, looking at our investments, where we had budgeted last year of probably about $100,000, and I think you hit the $1 million mark, if I recall. And so we're gonna, it's not gonna last forever, but it was kind of a nice surprise, and we're gonna raise that up to $220,000, and we certainly anticipate it's gonna be higher, and that will help our fund balance also and rolling over. So we're seeing an increase in licensing and permit fees of about $10,000, but we're seeing a boom in our construction office, and we can certainly raise our UCC fees that are based on revenue by $275,000. We also, getting back now pre-COVID, we took a big hit on our recreation trust because we were providing programs and everything else, but little revenue coming in because things were on Zoom and other things. Now that we have fees coming back in, we can roll them back into the budget like we have in the past. So we can increase that by $50,000 this year to help offset our costs for running all of our road recreation programs. And again, we brought in about $1.3 million in additional fund balance compared. The recommendation is to take $659,000 of that and increase the fund balance. We certainly have the funds, but more importantly, we have enough in reserve. So if there's anything that comes up, emergencies, major disasters, things like that, we are following our fund balance policy, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And we're trying to keep our fund balance of somewhere between 15 and 20%. We're going to be at 16, a little over 16%. So the money that's coming in, and this is what we're anticipating, again, the fund balance. We look at our miscellaneous revenue that's coming in from revenue permits that are coming in. We see about $8.5 million of that will be budgeted for that. And the good thing is, like, fees and have all stabilized since COVID. So we're seeing, we're either flat or we're going up a little bit. There's some that are still lagging behind, like hotel room tax. We're not where we were, but we're inching up every year. So we're pleased on that. As I said, we added some additional funds coming in on the pilot payments. And we also expect that as the marketplace gets occupancy and they're paying their fair share, they're being billed out for their mandatory requirement per those financial disclosure agreements. So how do we spend that $42 million is the big question. The big thing is, as we talked earlier, was our salary and wages for employees. In this budget, we do have 3 new hires. We are looking for a new hire in our police department. It's going to work with our traffic safety unit. We have certainly a significant number of concerns with, from our residents for different things where we can do with speed, volume, making sure that we have access, other modes of transportation, those kinds of things, what we can do. We're also adding in a head count for our Department of Public Works for mechanic as we buy these new machines that are computers and everything else, and much more challenging mechanic issues to do that, to maintain our fleet that is up and running so we don't lose any downtime. And then we've also increased our parks and what we're doing, and knowing that Collinsville is coming on, that we have other projects and we have a lot of things that we needed another headcount for maintenance in the parks division. So operating expenses this year are up about $330,000. The statutory expenses are up about $260,000. Our capital project is running right around where it was last year. We are about $250,000 less than we did in 2019 and 20. And then again, debt service is up this year. The library is up this year, but again, it's an offset. And then we do the reserve for uncollected taxes. That's the standard number that we do with the $3.2 million. The good thing is that our tax, I'll talk a little bit, but our tax rate, collection rate is very high. So that fund also helps stabilize our fund balance in future years. So the capital and programs is an important part of what we do. Again, what can we bring in for $2.8 million if we're going to go out to debt? What do we have on hand that we can spend for that? So our 2.8 covers the overlay and crack sealing. We spoke a little bit earlier about Bailey Hollow Road. That's part of this project of that $2.8 million. That's the biggest overlay project we have for this year. We have a number of other streets that we'll also do. We have reconstruction projects that we do. On the list this year is Delmar, Ridgewood, and Bryant, reconstruction of those streets. So they'll get into the queues. They'll have the funding there for getting the design work completed and then getting it out to bid, and hopefully it'll be a 2025 project for that. We also have our roofs at 3 of our firehouses need to be replaced, and the siding of 1 firehouse. So we put money in there for that to maintain that infrastructure for our firehouses. And then we have our sanitation trucks. We have a sanitation truck that needs to be replaced. Again, it's a $400,000 item, along with a large truck, utility truck, replacing a 2004 truck that is beyond its life expectancy. We're looking also then appropriating the money for 15 Jean Street, the additional $650,000, and then working on our capital improvement program. There's a $345,000, and that's really projects that we are paying 100%. It's our smaller projects. A lot of it involves our general services, such as sidewalk repair, basin repair, drainage repairs, curbing repairs, and then also buying equipment such as fire equipment. We have an air compressor that needs to be replaced for the breathing gear for our firefighters, so they have the proper equipment going into a house fire or some type of significant smoke condition where this stop patch is needed. Then we also do what's called our capital outlay program. This is for the much smaller projects. It's similar to operating, but it's a special fund, and it's funding that we put in place, but it has an expectancy that has to be used in the calendar year. So we're looking at some improvements at fire headquarters with some offices. This building was renovated back in 2020. The carpet and the flooring and everything in this building is way beyond its life expectancy. We're replacing that. We have some parks equipment like lawn mowers and things like that are going to be replaced. And then with our one-armed trash collection system, the cans are getting to past their life expectancy. So we're buying some new cans. So starting to replace cans that have been damaged or have holes in them or just have worn out. And then also we're purchasing a dumpster with a special enclosure, and that's for the collection of newspaper. And the reason that is because it's outside. If that newspaper gets wet, then it's no longer recyclable. So we have to do our best to keep that dry so we can get the funding, because that is one of the nice sources from recycling is newspaper and cardboard. And the last thing I had, I'm sorry, trying to say one more thing. We had, as you know, the ash tree removal. We still have ash trees within the right-of-way that are we removing. And then we have a program that if we take down an ash tree in the right-of-way or any tree in the right-of-way, we give our property owners there the opportunity to have a replacement tree put in, and we do that. So we've been doing that for the last several years, and it's been well received by our residents for that, but also, more importantly, eliminating the hazard of the ash trees. Just looking at our property values, as I said, we went up $7 million in assessed value, but I think the bigger number is over on the equalized value, which is up, over $400 million there. And that's because of the drop in the equalized ratio from 89.69 to 83.7. As we've talked, that is a good thing, especially for our property owners, because that is increasing the value of their homes. But it's also used for calculating the school tax, the county tax, and the library tax. And just looking at our projected tax rate for this year, we're asking for a 2% increase on the municipal tax rate. That equates approximately $56 per year for the average homeowner for a home assessed at $600,000. At this point, we are projected at 0% for the county. We have to look at overall, but our percentage of what we pay has dropped a little bit, so we may see a reduction in the county tax, but I've left it at 0 right now, waiting to see what comes out finally with the county. If we do get a reduction, it's not going to be all that much. But again, they're taking all the municipalities of the 39 municipalities and then dividing it up, but our share is between 5.5% and 6% of their total budget. The good news of this budget also is, as you know, we've been paying a significant more portion of the school tax than neighboring Morristown. We have seen a significant change with that ratio. Morristown has gone through their redevelopment process. They have put additional properties on there. Based on what they have put in, the equalized value that where we are now, both municipalities are actually going to see a reduction in their school tax, although the school budget is going up just under 3%. Where we went up approximately $300 last year on our school tax for our residents. This year, we're going to look at a reduction of $162. And keep in mind, that's really only contribute 6 months because the school district budget is based on the fiscal year. So we're looking at 6 months of their last year's budget and then 6 months of this current budget. So going forward, this ratio is going to help us out for the 2025 also and hopefully moving forward. Don't see an increase in the open space because of the equalized value going up significantly for our residents. We are going, and the library is based on an equalized ratio. Our residents are going to be paying an additional $11 towards the library tax. But good news is the tax rate is actually going to be lower than it was in 2023, and that our residents are going to see probably for $600,000 assessed value home, a reduction of about $95. So where we were just above $2 per 100 assessed value, we're just below that at this point. And that is kind of how the property tax gets divided up. As you said, the school takes 61%, the county takes 14%, the library 2%, and Morris Township as the collector here is 23% of the tax dollar for our residents. Kind of see how things have flattened out this year. Over the years, the rate that we've been paying towards the school has continued to climb up, and the rate for the municipal tax has been relatively flat over the last 10 years and even before that. This year, they're both right around the same. So good news for us. And then just talking quickly about the tax collection rate, our folks down there do a terrific job, and we're well over 99%, but we do budget about 97%, and then we have the reserve for uncollected taxes of that $3.2 million. We talked a little bit about fund balance, and it's just important to keep a fiscally responsible municipality is having funds in this fund balance. We want to avoid any tax spikes. If there's a bad year and we don't have a fund balance, then we have to raise it in taxes. So it gives us that stability. We want to maintain that tax levy of 2% and not have to go over it for that. And then if we have any significant losses in revenue, like we did with COVID, we have a fallback on that without having to go out to significant debt to pay our bills. And then we have it if we have a major storm that comes in, as we've had in the past with some of the hurricanes, nor'easters, different things that have come over the years, and we have significant costs. Sometimes we get it recouped through FEMA, but that's usually a 2 to 3 year process. We have that funding in place that we can use that storm fund money to offset that, but we have the fund balance to make sure that we keep everything stable, and we have a major road collapse, building collapse, other things. We're able to move forward on that. And then most importantly, we have money set aside for tax appeals. We try and reduce the tax appeals as much as we can, but as you know, on a tax appeal, we take in 23 cents on the dollar, but we pay out the whole dollar if they get a tax appeal. So we have money through the fund balance and a tax appeal reserve for that if it takes place. So my next slide is the fund balance policy. I'm not going to read it because, but this presentation will be online if anybody wants to know. But the township has a policy, and we really maintain that 15 to 20% of the budget minus the reserve for uncollected taxes to maintain that stability. It's a good policy to have, and it also helps us with our AAA bond ratings and a few other things when we're going out for debt service and things like that. So, and just a little bit of the fund balance history. We've always been fiscally stable and moving forward. Again, our fund balance is going up this year at the end of the year, but we're also pulling more back into the budget, but maintaining enough funds in reserve so that we maintain that stability. And quickly looking at, we have 3 utilities, so, actually, we have 4 budgets. So you have your overall budget, then you have your budget for the 3 utilities. First one being the sewer utility. It's a little over $9 million. It's primarily the revenue coming in is fee-based from the users. And then we also use a little bit of fund balance to help primarily offset our capital projects. Our operating and salary on that is over $6.5 million. Our capital projects that we're paying 100% for is just under $1.1 million. Our debt service is a little over $1 million. And then we also have in this year is an emergency appropriation from last year of $500,000 that has to be funded in this year's budget. And that was for the clarifier at the Woodland Sewer Treatment Plant. There's 2 clarifiers. One went down completely. If the other one had gone down, we would have then had to go into a manual pumping station, a few other things, so it would have wreaked havoc. So we moved forward as quickly as we could to replace that clarifier. It was back in place before the end of the year, and now we're replacing the other clarifier for that. So keeping those sewer treatment plants up and running. The next one is the parking, and we're starting to see, post-COVID now that the parking lots are full on Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. Mondays and Fridays are a little light, but we're back up getting revenue in. We're anticipating $325,000 in revenue. And then our operating costs are about $290,000, and we had that final debt service payment of $35,000 to do that. And then there's the swim pool. Again, fees of $1.6 million is the budget, but the fees that we're taking in is projected $875,000. We have a band premium that we got of $12,000 to help offset the debt, and then putting that additional $740,000 from the current fund over to the swim pool utility. And then our operating expenses out of the swim pool are $1.19 million, and it's basically salaries and cost of operating expenses. We also have capital projects where we have to put down the 5% money for that. So we have to raise $28,725 in the budget for this year for that. And then our debt service of $479,200 for that makes up the swim pool budget. So 2024 budget is, we've maintained all of our services. We have a capital program that is very robust and back to where we have been. We have a 2% municipal tax levy increase. And basically for the average homeowner for that, it's $4.66 a month, roughly $56 a year. And again, I think we have a very fiscally responsible budget to present to you for consideration. And then we always looking, as we do the budget, we're looking at 5 years down the road and things like that, but definitely looking into next year again, salary and wage increases, union contracts, things like that, the instability of the recycling market, the cost of goods and premiums, CPI is still, rather high. And our insurance premiums went up significantly this year, about 16%. Again, a cost that we don't have a direct control over. We're looking at that. And then looking at revenue projections, we're certainly expecting them to go up. We expect to hit that $1 million again on investments.
On our way.
Okay. But again, we're also looking at things of consideration is, where's that state aid number going to go? Are we going to get additional funding? Where are the health benefit costs going to be for next year? It doesn't look great right now, but we're hopefully that there'll be some remedy to that before the end of the year. And will pension costs stay, flat where they are? And we'll have to, again, see where they go. And then, also that want to take a look at tax appeals because many commercial properties are seeing vacancy rates. Right now they're subleasing, but when those subleases and everything else and we see a significant vacancy rate, it could have a direct impact on the property owner tax appeals for that. So again, looking at that as part of that. Give them the last slide. Ben.
Yay.
I tried to do less than I did. But we did a dry run today. I went, oh no, I'm in trouble.
No, excellent job.
So,
Yeah, I know. I think Tim was ready to ask.
I was going to then,
first.
put it out to the governing body for any questions, and then after you do your questions, recommend that you open it up then for
Yep.
public hearing. for any residents that wish to come up and ask questions or, come in on Zoom for that. And
Yeah.
Ms. Dolan, Mr. Ferguson, and myself will do our best to answer those questions.
Does anybody, Jeff, Deputy Mayor Grayzel?
Thanks for all the great work on the budget by everybody. Just two questions on the tipping fees. I know that the rates are going up, but I also wondered if we're generating more garbage because we do have new housing units.
Not significantly more. It's been very stable. So Tom Ashman does a report every month for me. And we've seen a little bit of fluctuation times, but it all depends on how many collections during the month, but we are still in the same number where we were last year and the year before. So we haven't seen a significant increase in tonnage.
Okay, that's interesting. The second question is regarding the pilot at the marketplace and the Lennar property behind it. You said we had an increase of, I believe, 289,000 this year in pilot payments?
239.
239.
Yes, sir.
What is the total that we're receiving now? And when it's all built out, what do you project as that number being?
We're built out on Lennar. It had been, I think we're up to about 1.23 on that for Lennar. I can pull that number.
Yeah, the total amount is.
Yeah, and so that number will be fairly stable going forward, 1.23. Marketplace is still moving forward. We got them out a bill last year. Was that 139,000 that we brought in?
The last quarter was a little bit more. The last quarter for this year was up a little bit more. We have a couple more of the lots coming online. So we've been increasing and will be increasing over the next couple quarters on the collections for the marketplace.
So it was 139 last year, an additional 239 this year?
Well,
no.
Yeah.
No.
It's should probably be about, I think, 175. I'm estimating out for this year.
For marketplace.
For marketplace. And so when it's all built out, do you have a projection about what the revenue is going to be?
I don't have that available here, but I think it was.
When we did the initial, it was roughly $600,000, $600,000 to $700,000 on the marketplace. And we are much higher than we anticipated for Lennar because the housing prices were much higher.
Much higher.
We were going, somewhere 900,000, and we're like 1.2-ish right now. So all built out. I think when it's all done, probably in that 1.5 to 2 million.
So that raises a good question for the Lennar as the units turn over, and if those prices go up, do the pilot payments go up as the units turn, or is it now a fixed? It's a fixed fee, right?
Not for the residential.
Yeah, the residential gets. Are there 10-year adjustments, or it's for the length of the pilot?
They make adjustments based on the sale.
Based on sale.
They do based on sales.
Different than the commercial.
Yeah. No, that's what I'm asking about the Lennar. So they do make adjustments based on sales. Is that on an annual basis or
Based on sale.
based on each sale? They make an adjustment on each sale?
Those units, because each one's separate.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you.
Are there any other questions from the Township Committee?
Nope, just great job, the entire team and Budget Committee, so kudos to you and another great financial year. Team effort.
It is a team effort.
We do currently have 6 members of the public joining us on Zoom. We will now open the public hearing for any comments from the public on the 2024 municipal budget. We will take comments from in-person attendees first and then switch over to Zoom. Please virtually raise your hand in Zoom to indicate you would like to speak. Please state your name and address for the record before speaking. Please note that comments are limited to 5 minutes per speaker. If you have questions you would like answered, your remaining time to speak will be yielded back for this purpose. May I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Members of the public speak. Is there anyone here from the public who would like to speak? Mark, are there any hands raised?
Yeah, Mr. O'Reilly has his hand up.
Mr. O'Reilly?
James O'Reilly, 50 Independence Way. Can you hear me fine?
Yes.
I want to thank the professional person who came up and made adjustments to your sound system, and everything worked ever since then. I also want to know if I get CEU credits for listening to Professor Quinn's lecture on municipal finance. Also, I had a question regarding I had a question about, I'm all in favor of your policy of planting native species. But I was wondering, with the change in the warming of the weather, the
Mr. O'Reilly, these are questions on the budget right now.
Oh, okay.
We'll have public comment at the end, but right now this is specifically for any questions on the budget.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
No other hands raised.
No other questions. I want to thank Mr. Quinn, our township administrator, Sean Ferguson.
Mayor, can I move that we close the public
Oh,
commentary?
yes.
I move that we close public commentary. Thank you.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I do want to, again, thank Mr. Quinn, our township administrator, Sean Ferguson, our CFO, and Valerie Dolan. Also, Mark Gyorfy on the Finance Committee, and all the department heads for their dedicated commitment to ensuring we provide the best financial guidance for the township. Keeping to the 2% municipal tax levy increase ensures that we keep up our excellent township services and also keep providing improvements to our infrastructure. We remain fiscally responsible in all our efforts while still meeting the challenges we face. So thank you all and great job. Tim, do you want to read the resolution?
Yeah, with your permission, Mayor, I will read the resolution for the adoption of the budget, and then I will turn it back over to you requesting a motion and then a roll call vote on the budget. The resolution, this is actually taken from the budget document. Be it resolved by the committee persons of the Township of Morris, County of Morris, that the budget herein before set forth is hereby adopted and shall constitute an appropriation for the purposes stated of the sums therein set forth as appropriations and authorization of the amount of $25,875,523.64 for municipal purposes and $597,447.07 for open space, recreation, farmland, and historic preservation trust fund levy, and $2,160,200, the minimum library tax. With that, I would turn it back over to you, Mayor.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve and adopt the 2024 budget and tax resolution?
So moved, Madam Mayor.
Second.
Is there any discussion or any other questions on the budget? Madam Clerk, may I have a roll call vote?
Mr. Gyorfy?
Yes.
Mr. Jonnada?
Yes.
Mr. Grayzel?
Yes.
Mr. Ravitz?
Yes.
Mayor Guariglia?
Yes.
One more final statement, Mayor.
Yes, yep.
Notice is hereby given that the budget and tax resolution has been approved by the Township Committee of the Township of Morris, County of Morris, on April 17, 2024. Thank you, and that will conclude our presentation.
Thank you all very much. Great job. We have 8 ordinances for introduction on tonight's agenda. Madam Clerk, could please read the title of the first ordinance into the record?
Ordinance 0824, an ordinance of the Township Committee of the Township of Morris, amending Chapter 15 of the Township Code, amendment to personnel policies.
May I have a motion to introduce ordinance number 08-24?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Madam Clerk, may I have a roll call vote?
Mr. Grayzel?
Yes.
Mr. Gyorfy?
Yes.
Mr. Jonnada?
Yes.
Mr. Ravitz?
Yes.
Mayor Guariglia?
Yes. The public hearing and final consideration and adoption of ordinance number 08-24 will be held at the next regular Township Committee meeting on Wednesday, May 15th, 2024 at 7 p.m. Madam Clerk, please read the title of the second ordinance for an introduction into the record.
Ordinance 09-24, an ordinance of the Township Committee of the Township of Morris, amending Chapter 434, Stormwater Management, Article 5, Salt Storage Privately Owned. Note, compliance with Stormwater Management, MS4 regulations.
May I have a motion to introduce ordinance number 09-24?
So moved.
Second.
Madam Clerk, may I have a roll call vote?
Mr. Grayzel,
Yes.
Mr. Ravitz,
Yes.
Mr. Gyorfy,
Yes.
Mr. Jonnada,
Yes.
Mayor Guariglia.
Yes. The public hearing and final consideration and adoption of ordinance number 09-24 will be held at the next regular Township Committee meeting on Wednesday, May 15th, 2024 at 7 p.m. Madam Clerk, please read the title of the next ordinance into the record for introduction.
Ordinance 10-24, bond ordinance providing for various capital improvements by the Township of Morris, appropriating the aggregated amount of $3,447,000, therefore, and authorizing an issuance of $3,274,650 bonds or notes of the Township to finance part of the cost thereof. Note, capital program for debt projects.
May I have a motion to introduce ordinance number 10-24?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Madam Clerk, may I have a roll call vote?
Mr. Gyorfy.
Yes.
Mr. Grayzel.
Yes.
Mr. Jonnada.
Yes.
Mr. Ravitz.
Yes.
Mayor Guariglia.
Yes. The public hearing and final consideration and adoption of ordinance number 10-24 will be held at the next regular Township Committee meeting on Wednesday, May 15th, 2024 at 7 p.m. Madam Clerk, please read the title of the next ordinance into the record for introduction.
Ordinance 11-24, ordinance appropriating $345,500 available in the General Capital Improvement Fund to provide for various capital improvements by the Township of Morris. Note, capital program for capital improvement fund projects.
May I have a motion to introduce ordinance number 11-24?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Madam Clerk, may I have a roll call vote?
Mr. Gyorfy.
Yes.
Mr. Grayzel.
Yes.
Mr. Jonnada.
Yes.
Mr. Ravitz.
Yes.
Mayor Guariglia.
Yes. The public hearing and final consideration and adoption of ordinance number 11-24 will be held at the next regular Township Committee meeting on Wednesday, May 15th, 2024 at 7 p.m. Madam Clerk, please read the title of the next ordinance into the record for introduction.
Ordinance 12-24, ordinance appropriating $140,000 available in the general capital fund balance to provide for various capital improvements by the Township of Morris. Note, capital program for capital fund balance projects.
May I have a motion to introduce ordinance number 12-24?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Madam Clerk, may I have a roll call vote?
Mr. Grayzel.
Yes.
Mr. Jonnada.
Yes.
Mr. Gyorfy.
Yes.
Mr. Ravitz.
Yes.
Mayor Guariglia.
Yes. The public hearing and final consideration and adoption of ordinance number 12-24 will be held at the next regular Township Committee meeting on Wednesday, May 15th, 2024 at 7 p.m. Madam Clerk, please read the title of the next ordinance into the record for introduction.
Ordinance 13-24, ordinance appropriating $1,343,500 available in the Sewer Utility Capital Improvement Fund to provide for various capital improvements by the Township of Morris. Note, Sewer Capital Improvement Fund projects.
May I have a motion to introduce ordinance number 13-24?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Madam Clerk, may I have a roll call vote?
Mr. Grayzel.
Yes.
Mr. Ravitz.
Yes.
Mr. Gyorfy.
Yes.
Mr. Jonnada.
Yes.
Mayor Guariglia.
Yes. The public hearing and final consideration and adoption of ordinance number 13-24 will be held at the next regular Township Committee meeting on Wednesday, May 15th, 2024 at 7 p.m. Madam Clerk, please read the title of the next ordinance into the record for introduction.
Ordinance 14-24, ordinance appropriating $350,000 available in the Sewer Capital Fund balance to provide for the Butterworth and Woodland Sluice Gate Replacement Project by the Township of Morris. Note sewer capital fund balance projects.
May I have a motion to introduce ordinance number 14-24?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Madam Clerk, may I have a roll call vote?
Mr. Grayzel,
Yes.
Mr. Jonnada,
Yes.
Mr. Gyorfy,
Yes.
Mr. Ravitz,
Yes.
Mayor Guariglia.
Yes. The public hearing and final consideration and adoption of ordinance number 14-24 will be held at the next regular Township Committee meeting on Wednesday, May 15th, 2024 at 7 p.m. Madam Clerk, please read the title of the last ordinance into the record for introduction.
Ordinance 15-24, bond ordinance providing for swimming pool improvements by the Township of Morris, appropriating $574,500, therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $545,765 bonds or notes of the Township to finance part of the cost thereof. Note, capital program for swim pool debt projects.
May I have a motion to introduce ordinance number 15-24?
Second.
Any discussion? Madam Clerk, may I have a roll call vote?
Mr. Ravitz.
Yes.
Mr. Jonnada.
Yes.
Mr. Grayzel.
Yes.
Mr. Gyorfy. Mayor Guariglia.
Yes. The public hearing and final consideration and adoption of ordinance number 15-24 will be held at the next regular Township Committee meeting on Wednesday, May 15th, 2024 at 7 p.m. How many resolutions?
Oh, shoot. Dang it. It's 109.
So that's,
Mayor, if I may, if I can make an adjustment on the resolutions, if you're going to do them by block, I need to pull 118-24 for a second. Mr. Gyorfy needs to recuse himself. on that
okay.
vote.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Okay, the resolution, how many?
There's 16.
We have 16 resolutions on tonight's agenda. May I have a motion to approve resolutions?
Yep. I'll move to resolutions 109 through 117 and 119 through 126 in a block.
Is there a second?
Second.
Madam Clerk, may I have a roll call vote?
Mr. Grayzel.
Yes.
Mr. Gyorfy. Mr. Jonnada.
Yes.
Mr. Ravitz.
Yes.
Mayor Guariglia.
Yes. And so now we
And
have,
I'd like to move resolution number 118-24.
is there a second?
Yes. Second.
Madam Clerk, may I have a roll call vote?
Mr. Grayzel.
Yes.
Mr. Gyorfy.
He's recused.
Oh. Mr. Jonnada.
Yes.
Mr. Ravitz.
Yes.
Mayor Guariglia.
Yes. Next is the consideration of monthly reports. The following reports are on file in the office of the Township Clerk and Township Administrator. February 2024 are Police, Fire, and the Morris Township Library. March of 2024 are the Tax Department, Police, Fire, Library, and Joint Court. Can I have a motion to approve the monthly reports?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Claims for payment, list of bills.
Mayor, you missed the consent calendar and received for the record.
This says claims for payment.
Did I forget the consent
Yeah,
calendar?
because I need just a motion to approve the consent calendar as distributed.
Yeah, 3 items on the consent calendar. There's three items on the consent calendar.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the items on the consent calendar?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Now are we on
And
consolidation?
then receive for the record. Do we have to,
Receive for the record. You
we
don't
have to accept them?
Right.
But you have to listen this.
So I move that,
Received for the record, the Board of Adjustment Annual Report of 2023 and tax appeals.
I move that we receive, accept the items received for the record.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Now is consideration of monthly reports. I read the following reports that were on file. Can I have a motion to approve the monthly reports?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Claims for payment, there's a list of bills and vouchers. The total amount of bills and vouchers for this meeting is $12,825,904 $1,025. We are also the tax collector for the school district, the library, and the county. May I have a motion to approve the list of bills and vouchers?
So moved.
Second.
Madam Clerk, may I have a roll call vote?
Mr. Grayzel,
Yes.
Mr. Gyorfy,
Yes.
Mr. Jonnada,
Yes.
Mr. Ravitz.
Yes.
Mayor Griglia.
Yes. We've received for the record the Board of Adjustment Annual Report 2023 and the tax appeals. It was down here. We're now going to go into standing committee reports and commentary by the Township Committee. At this time, I would like to call on Committeeman Jonnada.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I want to just remember the late Sandy Mayor, who was a dear friend of all of us here, and she will be missed dearly. And in addition, I want to thank Tim Quinn and company for introducing the budget. It's my first time to go through this process, so I found out the backstory about how the budget is done, and Tim and his group has done a good job on that. And I also want to mention that I went to Parsippany, to the Islamic Community Cultural Center, to my first iftar ceremony to celebrate the holy month of Ramadan. And my fellow committeeman, Deputy Mayor Jeff Grayzel, was attending, and he was awarded a community award for sponsoring the Muslim Heritage Month proclamation that this Township Committee had done in January. So I commend Jeff for that. I was very honored to see him there. And as far as the committee reports, we had a green team meeting. We're moving forward with getting sustainable jersey. At minimum, we're looking to do a bronze level, but we're also setting up to try to do a silver level. It's a big push for that, but we're starting to go into that issue. And the Environmental Commission, as Tim Quinn had mentioned about the tipping fees have increased for sanitation. We have been, to help try to alleviate it, we're looking at community composting, which can help reduce the sanitation tipping fees if it's done right. And as someone who has done composting on his own property, I can definitely tell my sanitation tipping fees, my personal sanitation tipping fees has been reduced ever since I've done that. So I'm just giving my testimony of that. And we're also looking to apply for a grant at Jones Woods to remove invasives. We're going to hire the invasive strike force team if we get the grant. And the people helping that are people and the volunteers in the Environmental Commission, Vernon Park Association, as well as township personnel. And we hope to get that project getting done, and hopefully we'll get that grant going. And as we have proclaimed Earth Day and Arbor Day, Earth Day is going to be commemorated April 22nd, Arbor Day in April 26th. And there are events around the area, around the county, but we also have and had events in our own township. Last Saturday, we had the tree giveaway. And on April 26th, we have our annual tree planting at Ginty Field. First graders from Woodland School are going to be participating in that. And the following day, on Saturday, April 27th, the Vernon Park Association will be restoring trees that were damaged due to vandalism. And as I've been doing for the last couple of times, I've been talking about different neighborhoods. So this time I'm talking about Butterworth Farms. Butterworth Farms was once the part of the Ventosa estate owned by Theron Butterworth and family, located on Sussex Avenue out in the western part of town. And it was one of the Gilded Age mansions, but it was also a working farm. It grew peach orchards, and it had a working dairy farm, very successful. Theron had married twice and had 10 children with those two wives. The second wife, Selena Gibbs, had kept a diary. So if anyone who wants to read, you can see how the Gilded Age set lived in those days. And after her husband died, she had ran the estate by herself. And after she died, her two spinster daughters had been living there until the 1960s, when the estate had to be sold, and it was sold to a developer who subdivided it into 300 private homes called Butterworth Farms. Unfortunately, Ventosa Mansion was knocked down around this time, but before that, it was a hoarder's paradise because of the auction. They sold off so many documents, so many envelopes and old newspapers going back a century, since 1867. So anybody who was a collector went there and got a mint, literally. And the area continues to have a charming blend of natural beauty and a strong sense of community with an active neighborhood association. The former cow meadow was turned into Butterworth Playground, which is now also the location of a pollinator garden made with native plants, among other things. This pollinator garden creates a habitat for insect pollinators such as bees and butterflies, and it shows how feasible it is to replace our lawns with native plants, and it provides botanical color and variety. Plus, it improves stormwater mitigation. So whenever you get the chance, spring is here, see the pollinator garden. And I think we're looking into expanding it. And I've been assisted in this report by two members of the Historic Preservation Committee, the chair, Carol Barkin, and Judith Sachs-Bliss, as well as Charlie Schachter, who was the instigator of developing the pollinator garden. And part of my research, I found the developer had said that one of the main selling points of this development was trees. So he gave a little blurb about that. Do you know what's becoming rare in the suburbs? It is the neighborhood tree. Look over the home developments you have seen of late. Ironic, isn't it? They have about as much shade as you'll find on Broadway. So come to Butterworth Farms, where the ever-spreading branches of our delightful tree plots seem to reach out to you and say welcome. So I now go back to the mayor. Thank you. And just to let you know, I know some people in the neighborhood, including some people on the stage.
Here on the dais. Thank you, Committeeman Jonnada. Committeeman Gyorfy.
Thank you, Mayor Guariglia. As chair of the Finance Standing Committee, I'd like to thank Administrator Tim Quinn, our CFO Sean Ferguson, who worked on his first budget with us this year, our tax assessor Kathy Vioranga, my colleague on the Budget Committee, Mayor Guariglia, members of the Township Committee, the department heads in the Township, as well as Valerie Dolan and the team at VOUCHERS for all the hard work on this year's budget. As we talked about earlier, we continue to operate in a challenging financial environment, making providing the services that matter most here in Morris Township more costly to our residents year after year. While this budget doesn't have everything that we wanted in it, I believe we've crafted a conservative and responsible budget that protects our surplus for times in case of hardship, continues the necessary support for our first responders and our employees, ensures our residents have access to the services they rely on throughout the year, and invests in our future through high priority capital projects, from road reconstructions to building maintenance to funding the initial planning of our multi-year community center project. And as in recent years, our residents are being spared from bearing the brunt of costly increases from inflation and supply chain issues by seeing a very modest tax increase this year, keeping Morris Township's municipal tax rate among the lowest in the county and the state, while other towns in our area continue to see large rate hikes. This is a true testament to the hard work of our professionals and the good intentions of this governing body over the past several years, especially through our utilization of federal COVID funding for strategic investments in years past, rather than plugging budget gaps for short-term needs. I'm proud that the Township Committee continues to adopt responsible budgets to keep our town operating smoothly now, and continues to prepare for the needs of the coming years. As chair of the Parks and Rec Standing Committee, I just wanted to provide an update for our major project of the year this year for Collinsville, that the bid notice did go out for the Collinsville reconstruction project, and we are anticipating having the hearing to award the contract in May. So hopefully we'll be able to award the contract in our May monthly meeting, and we're excited to see work starting shortly after that. Lastly, just in general commentary, last year at our Veterans Day service, we were able to dedicate many banners honoring our township's veterans. And I'm pleased to see that we had several other applications this year in the past several months to acquire banners for honoring veterans for Memorial Day. So I want to thank Annalise Rush and our administrator's office for continuing this program and doing outreach with our veteran community to make sure we continue to honor those who have served us in our community. We're looking forward to dedicating another round of banners at a Memorial Day service this year. And I'm looking forward to seeing all the banners that were up last fall to be rehung at the beginning of May. So with that, I will turn it back to you, Mayor.
Thank you, Committeeman Gyorfy. Committeeman Ravitz.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for the folks who are still here with us, the personnel online, get to see government in action. It's a wonderful thing. National news gets all the spotlight, but it's what we do here on this day as a governing body that has the biggest impact as the quality of the economic impact we provide in your life. I'll be brief tonight. We are going to be we have a fire truck that was in for refurbishment. Good news is it looks like they rebuilt it from the ground up, all new, and hopefully we'll be getting that. With regard to, I just want to echo what my colleague Gyorfy has said. Regarding the budgeting process, great effort. It's a superior budget. And keep fresh in my mind that Morris Township is the best town, best municipality in the county. So we can look and play. So great job, and looking forward to taking the next step of awarding the contract in the Collinsville Tucker Field renovation project. Real quick, I just want to also mention my friend Sandy Mayer. You at her memorial service and life celebration yesterday. It was a good send off. She was both an irresistible force and a project. She was one of the most passionate people that I'd ever met, and she was dedicated to making people's lives better through promoting and championing shared democratic values in Morris County. She was also happened to be a very funny lady and loved to share her humor with us. Folks who know her were aware of all she accomplished for Morristown, Morris County, and champion for Jewish interests. I look at life as a long journey, a bus ride, so to speak. People get on and off the bus as our journey progresses. Some people stay with us on the ride for a long time, and some are only with us for a short time. There's more to that, but I think you get the general idea. Sandy became part of my journey. She made an immediate impact. She was larger than life, and as such was very meaningful to me. She wasn't on the bus ride really long. She was an inspiration, and I don't know if there's higher praise one could give to another. She talked the talk and she walked the walk. She'll be greatly missed and fondly remembered by all those who knew her. I'm so glad that she and I crossed paths and rode the bus together, if only for a little while. May her memory forever be a blessing upon all those who knew her. Rest in peace, Sandy. The rest of my commentary is very brief. Monday was the 159th anniversary of the assassination of President Lincoln. He had just recently taken his second oath of office, and the Civil War had also just recently ended. As his good friend, Secretary of War Edward Stanton had said, when Lincoln breathed his last, now he belongs to the ages. What Lincoln said as he closed his brief second inaugural address is something that we should all keep in mind. He said, without malice toward none, with charity, with malice toward none, with charity for all, with firmness in the right as God gives us to see the right, let us strive on to finish the work we are, to bind up the nation's wounds, to care for him who shall have won the battle, and his widow and his orphan, to do all of which achieve and cherish a just and lasting peace among ourselves and all nations. In keeping with Lincoln's prophetic words, I always end my comments, or this is what I thought was a great tie-in here, because I do like to say that we should not be marginalizing people who have less political or economic power as some of us currently enjoy. Rather, let's stand up and face those who continue to profit from our equal rights for all citizens does not diminish the rights of our citizens. We have more in common than should ever divide us, which we will completely discover by talking. Amplifying misinformation and full of violent rhetoric is not part of a civilized society. Lastly, let's remember as we go about our business each and every day, just be kind to yourselves, kind to others, because kindness matters. Mayor?
Thank you, Committeeman Ravitz. Deputy Mayor Grayzel.
I thank you, Mayor. I'll try to be brief. I also want to thank everybody who's involved in the budget process. As well. There we go. I want to thank everybody involved in the budget process, the Finance Committee, the professionals, particularly Mr. Quinn, put together another fine budget. Our town is really well run, and we saw it here tonight. Quick update from engineering. I like to give a monthly road project update. Southgate Parkway, very close to us, is making great progress. I recommend everybody go over and take a look at the work there. The Gregory Kennedy Pine Tree Project, which is up next, is going to have shovels in the ground hopefully later this month or beginning of May. And on the list of resolutions tonight, we had the contract awarded for Overlook Road. So some engineering things that need to be done, but hopefully later this year, work will start on that too. Mr. Jonnada, Committeeman Jonnada, mentioned the Green Team work, and the Green Team is looking for new people to join the team. So if you're interested, please fill out a volunteer form on the website. Also on the agenda tonight is a police matter. It's the appointment of Dominic Pachado as a police officer. I had the pleasure of interviewing him along with Committeeman Ravitz as part of the police committee. Officer Pachado was raised in Morris Township, so he knows our community very well, which is going to be a benefit for all of us. And I think he will make a great officer. He's replacing a retired officer in that spot. My general commentary is a reminder that seasonal yard waste has begun last Saturday in one half of the town and this Saturday in the other half of the town. Little League opening day is this Saturday, and I am very much looking forward to representing the township and throwing a strike on opening day for us. And lastly, I too would like to mention my regards for Sandy Mayer and all she contributed to our community as an elected leader, but both as a member of the community. A lot of good things have been said about her tonight. I just want to add that at the memorial service, a card was given out, and I wanted to read the quote off of the back of the card. It's a quote from Dolly Parton, but it really exemplifies Sandy. And the quote is, "If your actions create a legacy that inspires others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, then you are an excellent leader." And I would like to thank Sandy for her leadership to her community, and we will all miss her very much. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I have a couple quick updates on the Transportation Advisory Committee. They have made a recommendation to look into having a bus stop on Hanover Avenue to service Morris Muse, and when the new affordable housing that will be off Catch Road goes in. Their Outreach and Events Committee, they have a new calendar which will be distributed shortly with our Morris Township in Motion events, including supporting the bike rodeo, walking tours, trail hikes, special routes to both of the pools, and more. We will be celebrating with Parks and Rec on the movies and concerts over the summer to reach more attendees and help build attendance by more of our residents. A Complete and Green Streets Roundtable with neighboring communities is set to discuss and collaborate and share experiences with our neighbors. And we also, for neighborhood events, we are sharing a list of all the neighborhoods in Morris Township and highlighting what makes them each special. On the Senior Citizens Advisory Committee, they also have had a lot of discussions on transportation. They continue in collaboration with TAC in finding the best solutions to help many of our seniors. The Website Resources Committee is also doing a lot of work and continually updating the website. Communications Committee has reached out to work with some high school groups, both the STEM and Interact groups, to coordinate help for seniors who need it, especially with IT. There will be a healthy aging presentation in the fall, and on April 23rd at 1 o'clock, there's a presentation on the healthy heart here at Town Hall. My last few comments are about how we celebrate Earth Day and Arbor Day in April. Earth Day is a call to action for our planet. All of us should embrace Earth Day with environmental optimism. Every sustainable and community action taken has the power to make a meaningful difference. Since April 22nd, 1970, schools, universities, and communities, people have stepped up to be better stewards of our planet. Around the world, 1 billion individuals engage in some kind of Earth Day activity. Remember to pause and appreciate all the landscapes that surround us. And to my friend Sandy Mayer, rest in power, my dear, and have a drink with RBG. At this time, I would like to open the public commentary. There are currently 5 members of the public joining us on Zoom. We will now open the meeting to the second public portion. We will take comments from in-person first and then switch over to Zoom. Please virtually raise your hand in Zoom to indicate you would like to speak. State your name and address for the record before speaking. Please note that comments are limited to 5 minutes per speaker. If you have questions you would like answered, your remaining time to speak will be yielded back for this purpose. Is there a motion to open public comment?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any members from the public? I see 2 hands raised. Marlene Memmer. I think you're on
Good
mute.
evening, Marlene Memmer, 53 Independence Way. You just adopted the resolution for the budget. Could you tell me what that resolution number was?
Sure, just give us 1 minute.
There is not a
Oh, there isn't.
resolution number.
Mrs. Member, there is no official resolution like we do with other documents. This is embedded into the budget document. It's considered a resolution, but it's actually part of the overall budget.
Well, at the last meeting, you had 2 resolutions for self-examination and had to do with the budget. So I just thought there was another one for the actual budget then. Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Mr. O'Reilly?
There. Now I'm unmuted. James O'Reilly, 50 Independence Way. With the global warming, I completely support your policy of supporting native species and plants. With global warming, does that change the definition of which species are still local species?
Mr. Committeeman Jonnada, do you have an answer for that?
Professor Jonnada.
Right.
Well, native species are really just species that are native to New Jersey only. I mean, because that's one of the things we need to be careful about, because sometimes we have native species that might be from other states, but just because there are neighboring states, they might not be considered there. But even if they're not native, some native, we can also use non-native as long as they're not invasive. So they do have those exceptions, but natives are helpful because of the root system. It helps the depths of the roots are more deeper than most other plants, like the ones that we use on our lawns are pretty shallow. So that's how that would help with any kind of global warming, because you want to help retain water that way. So anything that will stop erosion or anything like that, that's one way of doing it. And if you're interested,
You're welcome.
And actually, to add on to that, I just heard today that Just heard on the news today that they're working on modifying soil so that it retains more water since global warming is making evaporation happen faster. So we'll get that too.
And Jim, if you're interested, attend an environmental commission meeting and you can learn more about it.
Good. Yes, I totally support you in your policy. I was just wondering that some plants might be changing their ranges.
Yeah,
It's a good question.
good question for.
And
It's inevitable.
Yeah.
for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. O'Reilly. Seeing no other members of the public wishing to speak, will someone make a motion to close public comment?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The time is now 9:15. Can I have a motion to adjourn the regular session?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
The next regular Township Committee meeting will be held on Wednesday, May 15th, 2024 at 7 p.m. in person and via Zoom. Thank you all very much. Have a great night.